Cool, great. Thanks, Jiha. Yeah, I can be pretty brief about what we're building. The message history is a mechanism essentially to take your messages and securely transport them to yourself. Now, where and why would you want to do that? If you have a new app, you want your messages to come with you, so you need a way to get your app for your messages, your full message history from the old app into the new app. So you want to be able to take your messages with you. If you have the same app but you've got a new device, so in the world where people go about and you might lose something, uh, if you want to take your messages and get them on the new device, or let's say you have a new app on a new device and you want to pull in your message history from there, the way that the messages are encrypted and sent across the network means that we need to have a different way than was the case in V2, where you use the same encryption key to basically have the network act as a storage mechanism as well. So with V3 and MLS groups, the way that we need to have messages stored and retrieved means that we need to have some other means to be able to get your messages from A to B. So the work to do that is detailed mostly in the diagrams in XIP-31 that I encourage anyone to go read and have a look through. The current status of it is that it's currently actively under development. I can't give an exact date when it'll be ready, but it is more than halfway done. It will be ready certainly by or in June. Hard ask for me to put on myself to have be the case. If you'd like to have a look, so in order to transport messages from either app A to app B or app A to device B, there needs to be some intermediate storage mechanism that we're considering. We were considering different ways of implementing this, and certainly a real-time syncing mechanism where it would just continuously be streaming all of your messages all the time to the new device if you had multiple devices, as you might be familiar in some messaging apps. That's technically very complex and has a huge burden for other reasons. So in the interest of expediency to market, we've chosen a way that essentially acts more like a backup or an importing. And so it's essentially like a one-shot. If you're familiar, when you create, when you set up a new MacBook to have your import your history and your messages and your documents, you just press a button, and if you provided that you've sent it from somewhere, then you just have it available to you. So we'd like to make the experience as easy and as seamless as possible, while also providing the same security guarantees around the encryption and the non-leakage of your messages. So in order to facilitate that, long story short, there's a message history server that acts as a storage place, really just a dumb file server that you can put your message bundles to, and your other device will securely communicate with the other device as long as you have the same installation IDs, to request and then respond with the location and the signature for that message bundle, and it should stream across. And so you're encouraged to take a look at the message history server. XMTP, as I understand it, we will be hosting a instance of this as a benefit for the community. We also, any integrator is more than welcome to take that code base and run their own if you'd like to support your own style of message backup history. Please, if you have any questions about any of it or how the mechanisms work, I'll be adding more documentation and diagramming as it gets closer to completion about how it practically works. But the README on the front page should give you a good indication of how it mechanically works. And once it's into the codebase and into the SDKs, we'll also have some documentation that walks through how to make the user experience great. But to speak more about the user experience, I'll hand it over to Eleanor, who can speak more to that. So.
Wonderful. Thanks, Scott. So I'll spend a few minutes talking through how this will work in terms of a UX perspective for the end user, and then we can open it up to questions or feedback for either Scott or myself. So when we started talking about the potential UX of this change, we actually conducted a concept test with end users last year. And just a little context on me for those I don't know. I'm a product manager at XMTP, but I spent the first year or so as a UX researcher. So we conducted a UX research study. And the goal of this study was to understand what were the most usable and effective flows, and flows that made the most sense for users who wanted to download their message history in a second installation of an XMTP client app. So as you can see on the screen, these are actually three different options that we presented to end users in this study. So these are not a continuous flow. These are three distinct options of how a user might download their message history. And the reason why a client app would need to design something like this, it doesn't need to look exactly like this, but these are just some ideas, is because the user needs to take an action to initiate the foregrounding of the original app in order to download their message history. So for everyone here who has hopefully used XMTP before, in our current iteration, as Scott described, message history is automatically downloaded when you open a new XMTP app. What is going to change is that for all of the security reasons that Scott alluded to, the user will actually now need to take an action to download their message history. And so we concept tested a couple different actions that they could take. I can share more details about the results. I'll publish the research and link to it after this call. But there were mixed responses to what people preferred. I would say overall, folks were more inclined towards the first two options that are very Web 2 oriented. There's a lot of familiar mental models around, let me link my Bluetooth to my car. So let me look at that number and say, great, this is the right car. Or, hey, let me log into my Netflix account on my television. Let me confirm it on my phone. No one was particularly excited about the wallet signature, which shouldn't be a surprise to a lot of us that work in Web3. So to bring it all back, the goal of this was to really just understand the user experience that would be required of client apps to implement, and what end users were most excited about or preferred in order to foreground the original app so that they could effectively download their message history.